folks, and welcome to my podcast, Turning Points, where we talk about the historic events during World War II that turned the war and the world around. I'm your host, Monte, and sadly we have no co-host, but hopefully I'm all you need today to learn about Pearl Harbor and the battle that ensued there. Before we dive deep into the topic of today's episode, I have some fun facts you probably don't know about the infamous attack. Veterans can actually be laid to rest at Pearl Harbor, having a diver deposit their ashes in one of the sunken ships. Although it was a surprise attack by the Japanese, Americans actually fired the first shot before the Pearl Harbor attack. Submarines were also supposed to play a big role in the attack, acting as a rendezvous point and an attack point for the Japanese. The Japanese attack force was commanded by Vice Admiral Nagumo, and the overall operation was planned and executed by Admiral Isoroku, the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Japanese Navy. The attack resulted in the sinking of 4 U.S. Navy battleships, the USS Arizona, USS Oklahoma, USS West Virginia, and USS California. But even while doing the damage they did, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was still seen as a strategic failure, as it didn't destroy any U.S. aircraft carriers, and effectively united the American public in support of the war effort. 30 days after the Pearl Harbor attack, 134,000 Americans enlisted in the military, and less than a year later, 50 million of the 132 million Americans were employed in the war effort. Today we'll be taking a dive into the Pearl Harbor attack. On December 7, 1941, the United States was suddenly and deliberately attacked by the naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan, resulting in the U.S. being inducted into the already brewing World War. Now picture this. It was a peaceful Sunday morning in Pearl Harbor. The naval base was relatively quiet, with many sailors and soldiers enjoying some downtime. Little did they know their tranquil morning was about to be shattered. Japanese aircraft descended on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The surprise assault began around 7:48 a.m. local time, with waves of Japanese bombers, torpedo planes, and fighter aircraft striking American ships, aircraft, and military installations across the island of Oahu. The attack was a devastating blow to U.S. Pacific Fleet. The American forces were caught off guard and struggled to mount effective defense. Many pilots scrambled to get their planes in the air, but quickly shot down. On the ground, sailors and soldiers fought bravely, but were outmatched by the sheer force of the Japanese assault. In just under 2 hours, the Japanese managed to sink or damage 21 ships, including 8 battleships and 188 aircraft. Over 2,400 American service members and civilians were killed, with another 1,700 injured. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a pivotal moment in history and a day that will forever live in infamy, marking United States entry into the World War II. President Franklin D. Roosevelt famously described December 7th as the date which will live in infamy forever. The surprise attack galvanized the American public and led to the country's full-scale mobilization for war against the Axis power of Germany, Italy, and Japan. Now, in the aftermath, the U.S. launched the Doolittle Raid, the first air raid to strike the Japanese homeland, and eventually defeated Japan after years of bitter fighting in the Pacific theater. Heroism, brave sailors, soldiers, and airmen fought valiantly against the onslaught, with many making the ultimate sacrifice. Their actions in the face of the overwhelming odds are a testament to the American spirit. Pearl Harbor was a seminal moment that changed the course of the 20th century, and I'm glad I could share some of the key details and significance of that fateful day. But let us honor the memory of those who perished at Pearl Harbor and recommit ourselves to the values of freedom, democracy, and peace that they fought to defend. The attack may have shaken the nation, but it did not break the resolve of the American people. United in purpose, the United States emerged from the ashes of Pearl Harbor to lead the Allies to victory in World War II. As I said earlier in the podcast, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor made many American citizens want to fight in the war. And of those millions that decided to enlist was a track star named Louis Zamperini, who planned on running the Olympics in Tokyo, but it was canceled because of the war. Louis Zamperini has an inspirational story about being stranded in the ocean for more than a month after a plane crash and being captured, tortured, and eventually broken by the Japanese. Hopefully we could dive more into this story in a later episode, but I do advise reading the book Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. Throughout this research process, I learned that the Japanese was a much more formidable foe than I originally thought. An attack on Pearl Harbor showed that although it was eventually seen as a failure, the damage they did would always be remembered by the Japanese and American people alike. All right, good people, that's all for today's episode of Turning Points. Thank you for joining me to talk about the day that will forever live in infamy, and be sure to leave your thoughts or any questions down below. Also, leave a good review or even a bad one so I can reach more people and they can learn about the historic events in World War II that turned the world around. Bye.